Feeding the yeast at around 9 a.m. I'll feed it again, I don't know, mid to late afternoon. Alright, I am about to mix up my dough. I have fed the starter twice today, once in the morning and then once mid-afternoon. This recipe calls for originally 500 grams flour, 225 milliliters warm water, 300 grams starter. But I'm making 2 loaves in bread pans, so I'm bumping that up by 20%. 100 grams extra flour. I don't know what is 20% of 225. Let's see, 10% will be 22, so that'll be 40. Another 45 milliliters here, I think, and then another 60 grams here, but check my math. This recipe also calls for salt and flour. That I just kind of, or not salt and flour, salt and honey. Alright, for those of y'all without a scale, a cup of all-purpose flour, the Gold Medal brand, is about 146 grams, so you can extrapolate that. As you can see here, the starter is hella active, so I'm going to stir this up, make sure it's all homogenized, and then pour out 360 grams. Alright, 1 cup of my starter is probably about 190 grams. 1 cup of warm water is 233 grams, and we need 1.2 times 225 milliliters, but a gram of water is essentially a milliliter, so you can translate those one for one. I can't remember how much honey this calls for, but I just kind of squeeze them in. It's probably a tablespoon and a half or so. And then the salt. I use truffle salt, but it really doesn't matter. Just however much you feel. Alright, now I grab this wooden spoon, I stick it in this bowl, and stir around for like 10 minutes until I get a ball of dough. And if you have a stand mixer, this part will be a lot easier, but not as much fun. Alright, now we have the dough ball. Still's a little bit wet. You want a wet dough. Let's see how it's sticking to the sides here. It's a little bit too wet, so I'm gonna throw I don't know, half handful of flour so I can get it out of here without it sticking all over my hands. I'm gonna put it on my surface. I still want it to be pretty sticky, so I'm gonna use flour sparingly, just to make it so it's easy to handle. And I will knead it for 15 minutes. I think the recipe calls for 10 in a stand mixer, but since I'm doing it by hand, I will do it for 15. Alright, I've been kneading for about 5 minutes. Even though I sprinkle on flour to make it workable, It's still a sticky dough. Still a wet, sticky dough. See how it's sticking to the counter like that? That's what you want. Makes it harder to work with. That's what you want. Alright, it's been 15 minutes of kneading. Sprinkle a little flour on here. Directions say that you want to press it down. It's supposed to spring back. See, spring it back a little bit there. I usually just go by time. I see how the dough is a lot more incorporated now. So transfer this to a well greased bowl covered with a greased top of some sort, saran wrap or aluminum foil, whatever you want to use. Let that rise for 3 hours in a warm spot. So, I don't know, near a lamp or something for 3 hours. Alright, here we have our dough ball in the bowl. And this is going to rise quite a bit, probably to the top. So, make sure you grease it well. Alright, you can see the loaf has risen a little bit. I will dump this out onto a floured surface. Cut it in half and then lightly knead the 2 halves and put them in my 2 pans with floured towels and let the seam up and put those in the fridge overnight. Alright, so the loaves didn't rise quite as much as they have in the past in the fridge, so I'm going to keep them in a warm kitchen for a couple hours. Hopefully that will fix itself. Alright, look at these now. So I just turned my oven on. What time is it now? It's 9:40. So these have been rising for an hour and 40 minutes. I'm going to slice a cross pattern in the top and then maybe wait a few more minutes and pop these in the oven at 450.